In the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night, in the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night. Hello everyone, I am Anthropomantic Fiend and I do horror-related things on the internet. So this is gonna be the final review of my 30 Nightmare Reviews series of Heart of the Night review videos, because I've finally circled around to where I was when I finally decided I wanted to do these videos, which is with this movie, Hide and Creep. I watched this right before I became inspired to start doing a horror channel, and then the movie right after this in the series is Last of the Living, which is the first movie I did. So we've come full circle, and this is gonna be my final review of that series. I'm planning to do a ranking of every movie that's in the 30 Nightmare Movies box set, hopefully next week-ish. I will also be making a playlist of trailers and videos related to all of the movies I've reviewed. I'm gonna make a playlist with all of that in it, so that if you're interested in any of the movies that I've reviewed, it's all there in one playlist. The movie I'm talking about today is Hide and Creep, and my last review was Zombie Dearest, which was so mediocre and pretty cringeworthy, and this is a zombie comedy done very right. The essential premise for this is zombie apocalypse in the small town, I actually don't know how small it is, but in the town of Thorsby, Alabama, where the movie was actually filmed on location in Thorsby, which I think is cool. There's an outbreak of zombies there, and we don't really know why. We've got all of these different people living in the town that we're introduced to gradually. We've got Chuck, who is this video store owner who just does not care about anything. He's very self-centered. We've got the church caretaker slash preacher pastor character, I forget his name, who has this sort of internalized annoyance with the people around him. We've got the receptionist at the police office who has to deal with everybody since the sheriff and the deputy are both out of town, and her name is Barbara, which I'm assuming is a nice little nod to Night of the Living Dead. We get a few of those in this movie. And then we've got Michael, who I'll get to him in a minute. I'll just get to him in a minute. And we've got the Thorsby Gun Club. They're just a group of hunters who are going to their cabin for a bit, and just we've got this assortment of characters around the town, and eventually they all of their stories kind of intersect, more or less. We just have to see how they deal with the zombie outbreak, and it happens to be absolutely hilarious. For starters, I usually start with the soundtrack. The soundtrack is great. This is an amazing soundtrack. It's one of the more creative ones, because it's got like a classic horror film feel, almost an over-the-top classic horror film feel in places. In the opening credits, there's a little bit of like a theremin type noise and just some classic horror movie sounds. But most of the instruments used in the score are bluegrass instruments. So you've got sort of this ominous tone to the music, but at the same time this really strong bluegrass influence that's really fun. This movie just shows that it loves horror and zombie movies right out the gate. The first scene in the movie is Chuck, the video store owner, on the phone with somebody who's trying to get zombie movies.
Yeah, so Evil Dead's not a zombie movie. It's actually demons who are possessing people. Yeah, a lot of people have that misconception, but Evil Dead's not a zombie movie. Well, there's Dead Alive, which is actually, well, it's called Brain Dead in New Zealand, where it's from, but it's called Dead Alive here. Oh, you only want American zombie movies? Oh, yeah, well, there's like only 3 good American zombie movies, and Romero made all of those.
And we just hear these snippets of his conversation as he's listing all of these zombie movies over the phone, interspersed with the opening credits. And all this time, in the background, you can see Plan 9 from Outer Space playing on the TV. And that's more significant than you might think. I might have already said too much, but it's a very self-aware movie, and it knows it's zombies. The camera work is good. Everything about the movie looks good. I mean, it's not a high quality movie, and there are aspects of it that don't look professional, but it's always entertaining. It's never trying to be serious and failing. It's always very aware of whenever something in it is campy, and it'll just play that up. I enjoyed all of the performances in this movie. You've just got a lot of great characters, and I'll get to them in a minute, but the script is great. The comedy aspect of the movie is great. The zombie makeup is awful. It's just so fake. But again, the movie doesn't take itself seriously, so you can live with it. It's actually fairly entertaining. And the gore effects aren't half bad, but they know they've got a low budget, and they don't try to make it convincing. They just have fun with it. And they do that so well. There's very little that I can say about this movie that's bad. It's just a really fun zombie horror comedy. So we've got Chuck, who just does not care. A zombie breaks into his place at the beginning of the movie, and he just kills it, and he can't get a hold of the police because they're out of town, and he's just like, he calls his mom, and he's like,
Yeah, so do you know how to get bloodstains out of a t-shirt?
And then he just drags the body to the police station and puts a sticky note on it that says, "Dead guy, call Chuck," and leaves. And even in the zombie apocalypse, he just wants to watch sports. He just does not care. And it's hilarious. We've got the Thorsby Gun Club, which all of the characters in there are entertaining, but the main one they're focusing on is Keith, who's sort of the head. He's not a particularly funny character. He's honestly pretty likable. He seems more sort of authoritative and unlikable at the beginning, but you just sort of find out more things about him as the movie progresses, and he becomes more likable. Then you've got the church caretaker guy. Things are just grating on him all the time. This woman, when we're first introduced to him, has just come and taken all the folding chairs out of the church without asking him. And he's just like,
Oh, well, as long as you can bring them back for the after sermon dinner or whatever it is tomorrow, that'll be fine.
and she's just like,
Well, I'll get him back to you as soon as I can. I don't know about tomorrow, though. Maybe Monday or Tuesday.
you can tell that he's pretty pissed off, but he's just kind of internalizing it. Barbara is amazing. She's just constantly pissed at everybody about everything, and it's great. She just has to deal with people constantly calling her about the zombie outbreak in the town, and they don't really tell her that it's a zombie outbreak because they don't know at first, so she just keeps putting them on hold. And then this government guy just comes in. Well, first of all, Chuck has just left a dead guy in there with her, and she doesn't really know how to deal with it, so she's trying to. And then this government guy shows up, and he is trying to... He's been sent out to deal with the RC problem, which is short for resurrected corpse, because the government has to have a technical term for it that isn't zombie. He just kind of takes her car and drives it to the cemetery. At the same time, we've got Michael, who has found himself in a tree without any pants, and he doesn't know why. And he's sad that his girlfriend Gail has mysteriously disappeared, but he's more sad about his car. He's always obsessing about his car in this movie. It's very clear that he loves his car more than he loves his girlfriend, and that's just kind of the running joke with him, besides the fact that he can never seem to find a decent pair of pants. Even after he finds his pants in the cemetery, government guy takes them as evidence, so he can't have his pants back. Michael's a pretty notable character in that respect. Regarding the government, it's very clear they really don't know what they're doing, because government guy is just kind of over the top and pushing everybody around. He's got these zombie pamphlets that he hands out, which talk about how to identify zombies and what you should do should you come in contact with one. And one of them, and it's just like, zombies are covered in blood, and they are dirty, pale skin, they probably smell bad. If you are bitten, you will become infected, you will die, you will want to eat flesh, and you will become resurrected. If you are bitten, kill yourself or get somebody else to kill you. So, totally unhelpful. That's basically our cast of characters, and there's not much else I can say about what they do and what happens to them in the zombie apocalypse without spoilers. This movie is really, really great. I don't know if I laughed out loud at any point in time in the movie, but I found it really, really entertaining. It's clear that they love zombie movies, and they were having fun when they made this movie, and that they know how to make a good movie on a low budget. So if you like low budget, campy, horror comedy type films, and if you love zombies, I am fairly certain you will enjoy this movie. I definitely recommend checking out Hide and Creek. So with that out of the way, on to the spoilers. In regards to the Plan 9 aspect, aliens. We believe that aliens are responsible for the zombies. We don't know exactly why they're reanimating the dead. We don't really know that in Plan 9 either. But the reason that Michael has found himself in a tree without any pants is because he was abducted by aliens and probed, and evidently this is what has happened to Gale as well. All of the characters die in fairly hilarious ways. We've got one of the gun club guys, Ted, who's very sad because his friend Ned has died. He's always talking about,
We were always the best friends, Ned and Ted. Everybody would always say, oh look, there goes Ned and Ted. Now what are they supposed to say? Here goes Ted.
Incredibly stupid, but I love it. He comes back with this big wound on his neck, and everybody's like, what happened to you? And he just goes, ran into a tree branch. And of course, we all know that he has not run into a tree branch. He's been bitten, and gradually throughout the movie, we realize that he's become infected. He tries to eat his own hands, ends up trying to throw suspicion on the other guys and say, how do I know you're not zombies? As an excuse for killing them. But then he just turns full zombie and they have to kill him. We see Keith, the head of the gun club, go to his house, and we see his two daughters. We've got a little daughter and a more teenaged one. And he tells the teenager, if there's a stranger in the house, what do you do? And she's got all these levels of warning, and it's just like, and what if they don't listen?
Take off the safety, shoot them once in the chest and twice in the head just to be sure.
We sort of leave them there, and we go to the church guy, the pastor. Zombies have somehow managed to break into his church. He's been bitten. Once he's starting to zombify, he stops caring. He goes over to what I assume is the party where his folding chairs have been stolen, and he steals a bottle of alcohol and starts drinking it behind the back porch. And the woman who has come and taken the folding chairs, at least I think it's her, runs in and is like,
stop stealing my liquor. If you want some, you can buy some yourself.
And he just screams,
this is a dry county,
and bites her. And I love that. Michael finds I believe it's the license plate to his car, and finds it, and it's totaled, and he just starts weeping. Since it has such an emotional impact, that's basically a death for him. Not Gale, his car, his poor car. He just doesn't care anymore after his car is totaled. Refers to it as his baby a lot too, which is amusing. This is actually shortly before Ted dies. It might be after, I'm not sure. But the gun club people who have been driving around trying to find shelter and supplies and shooting zombies run into a supermarket. and they've just been to this barbecue place, and one of them goes in, and they're just sort of talking about it with Chuck on the phone, actually, and he's like,
Well, I mean, people do go to malls in zombie movies and giant spider movies for shelter, but do you really want to go to a strip mall? I don't think that's a good idea.
but they go there. It's this grocery that's still open during the apocalypse, and they're insisting on continuing to sell stuff. And you've got this guy over the loudspeaker just sort of talking about, okay, the parking lot's clear now, you can probably make a run for it now. Oh, and milk and bread are like $5 now because people really need to stock up. One of the guys from the gun club walks in. This supermarket guy has posted like guards throughout the place, and he's just like, all right, who are you? How are we sure you're not a zombie? And he's just like, well, look at me, I'm not a zombie. And they're just like, what? I heard the zombies are bloody. What's that on you? And he's like, it's barbecue sauce. I heard the zombies smell bad. You smell bad. It's barbecue sauce. I heard that the zombies don't talk. You aren't saying much. I just got here. And they end up beating him to death because this guy just insists it's a zombie. And it's the stupidest thing, but it's also kind of really sad. So he's dead. I think the Ted thing happens shortly after that. Every good campy horror movie has a stupid little twist or revelation in it, and this one has a great one. Earlier on, when they were in the barbecue place, there was this stripper woman there who was like, some of my dancer friends are gonna be here in just a little bit. I'm sure they'd want to meet you, but they're like, yeah, no, zombie apocalypse, we should be going. But they end up going back, or Keith does. He's alone now. The dancers are there, but they're all zombies, and they're like erotically killing everyone in there while there's like sleazy music on the radio in the background, and it's very entertaining. But that's not the funny part. The funny part is when he runs into the bathroom to escape, and he turns the lights out, and they start backing out, and he's like, wait, you're afraid of the dark. So these zombies have a weakness, and it's that they're afraid of the dark, which is the dumbest thing in the world, and I love it so much. And it's followed by this line after he reports it to the news, which is said by this one other guy in their group. Well, that would explain why they dug themselves out of the ground. So they get back to the cemetery to try to get Barbara's car back after it's been stolen. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention the government guy gets eaten because he's stupid and refuses to look behind him. So Barbara's car's just there in the cemetery, and they go to get it back, and Michael's just like, I don't care anymore, my car is gone. Here, I'll hold them off. And they're just like, grow up, it's just a stupid car. And he's just like, are you gonna give me the gun or not? Otherwise I'm just gonna run out there unarmed. So he just runs out there, and he starts shooting zombies, and he runs up against this one zombie that's made up to look exactly like Johnny from Night of the Living Dead, and he punches it, and then he just gets swarmed by the zombies, and he's dead. Then we've got the special sermon from the pastor, because everybody's been like, why don't we hold a special sermon? Because everybody's really worried what with the zombie apocalypse going on. So he just gives this whole ridiculous sermon about how, oh, well, you know, it's kind of funny because Jesus rose from the dead, but it wasn't like this. Oh, you want answers from me? No, screw you. Then a zombie walks in and he shoots it. People start screaming. There's this one woman there in particular who's incredibly uncomfortable. And then he shoots himself because he's turning into a zombie, and the blood gets all over her, and she screams, and it's wonderful, but he's dead. All of these people have sort of met. Keith and everybody are together in a car, and they drive back to, actually no, Barbara and the others are trying to find shelter, so they end up going to Keith's house, because Barbara's actually Keith's sister, and they go in there. They find that these two kids have been killing zombies. Yes, the really little girl has been too. She just walks out of the basement and she's like, I think they're trying to get in through the basement, and she's just got this little pink t-shirt and pink pants on, and she's just drenched in blood and holding a giant machete, and it's amazing. They're just like, honey, Hannah, Oh, her name's Hannah. Hannah, what are you doing with a machete? They go there for shelter, then they have to fend off zombies, and then Keith comes in, and they all drive off into the sunset, because once the sun sets, the zombies are afraid of the dark, so they should be good. I forgot something, though. Before that happens, Gale falls out of the sky. After Michael's gone, we find Gale, and she gives some more sort of weird insights into the aliens. As they're driving along into the sunset, because once it's dark, they should be alive, Hannah starts going, "Daddy, can we get something to eat?" And he's like, "No, sweetie, but I'm hungry now." She bites him because she's been bitten, and we just see the car skid as the sun's going down, and we can kind of infer that they all die. So the only character that leaves alive is Chuck. And Chuck has been sitting at the police station this whole time trying to watch sports, but he can't because of the news. So he's finally said, "Oh, well, it's dark. They're afraid of the dark, so I guess I can make a run for it." But then they're like, "Well, now that it's sunset, we can probably put the sports game back on." So he looks at his watch, and he's just like, "Meh, I have a few minutes," so he sits down to watch sports, and that's the movie. It's pretty campy and stupid, but not stupid as in they didn't know what they were doing. It's just a very absurd premise, and they run with it, and they made something really great and entertaining with it. So I definitely recommend checking it out if you like campy horror, which is most of my recommendations on this channel, but this one is a really, really good, well thought out horror comedy. So definitely recommend it. This is my final 30 Nightmare Movies Heart of the Night Reviews video. So thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you in another video. Bye.